Well, good morning, everybody. Once again, Chamber of Commerce weather, although we're inside. Welcome, everybody. I'm Bill Chambers, President and CEO of the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to our 2022 State of the Wicomico County Public Schools. It's been a crazy time, as we all know. We started this a few years ago. It really came as an offshoot of the Education Foundation being stood up. Greater Salisbury and the Chamber fought hard to eliminate the four-letter word called maintenance of effort. I did pass English. It's not a four-letter word. Which we hope will never be worn as a badge of honor by elected officials again. And that will continue, that advocacy. If I could ask everybody to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I want to thank today's presenting sponsors. We couldn't do events like this without the great support of First Shore Federal Bank, as well as Comcast. How about a round of applause for both of those great sponsors? And thank you to those organizations and businesses that sponsored a table. They feel this is an important event to be at, to be a part of. And I want to thank Salisbury University, the Office of the President, Becker Morgan Group, Purdue Farms, Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore, and the Wicomico County Public Schools. And a special thanks to our Superintendent, Donna Hanlon, and her executive team. As we all know, the pandemic put a major kink in all of our lives, and certainly our great school system experienced some significant challenges. Thus, this event had some moving targets, but we're finally here. Quickly, I just want to tell you about a couple of upcoming important events. We have candidate forums that the Chamber, Greater Salisbury, and Salisbury University are hosting. May 2nd, the Attorney General candidates for the state of Maryland. That'll be at Salisbury University, 6 o'clock. May 5th, we have the candidates for the 1st Congressional District. Democrat candidates will be at Warwick, 6 p.m. And on May 12th, we'll have the 3 individuals running for county executive. That will be back at Salisbury University at 6 o'clock. These are all free. You don't have to sign up and register, but I encourage all of you to attend and help make your vote count in the primary. The primaries are always very important, as we all know. Coming up May 19th, we have a great general membership luncheon. We have NASA and Rocket Lab that'll be with us. It's going to be at the Cambria Hotel in Ocean City. So that'll be a great way. And Taste of the Town is back. COVID delayed as everything else has been. That's at Dove Point, also on May 19th, 5 to 7. I think we have a dozen plus restaurants that will be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you leave hungry, shame on you. We do have a few special guests I want to introduce. We have Senator Mary Beth Carosa. Senator, I know you're here. There you are. I know our county executive was supposed to be with us, so if he shows up, let him know I mentioned him. President of the Wicomico County Council, John Cannon. John. Council member Bill McCain. I know Bill's here. I know Council member Hastings was also supposed to be here. If I missed him, he's not here yet. President of the Salisbury City Council, Jack Heath. Jack. Mike Dunn, President, CEO, Greater Salisbury Committee. Mike. Jamie Hayes, President, CEO, Junior Achievement. Thank you, Jamie. Erica Joseph, President, CEO, Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore. Erica. Pam Gregory, President, CEO, United Way of the Lower Shore. Pam. And I know Dr. White was supposed to be with us from SU. I don't think he's arrived yet either. If I missed anyone, I apologize. But as I've said at all these events, just holler. I'll make sure I recognize you. A member of the Civic Center staff, Stacy, to be specific, in the back of the room, will now, before I do that, Jeff Merritt, I had you written down, our board president. Jeff wants to bring greetings, and then we'll get everyone to the buffet line. Jeff?
Good morning. Morning, everybody. I will be brief because we have two important things coming up, food and a presentation. So as a business owner who has no kids or grandkids in any school system right now, why is education important to me? Because we have to potentially hire the end product of our school system. So I cannot thank you, your leadership team, your staff, the custodians, the cafeteria staff, everybody for what you do for our kids. Because even though they're not my kids, they might be someday. We're very proud to work with SU and their internship program. We love involving the young people in our business community. So thank you. Everybody enjoy your day, enjoy the presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Now, Stacy from the Civic Center will call you up by table. Enjoy your lunch, and as soon as we get everyone served, we'll begin the program. Thank you.
So first of all, I want to recognize the members of the First Shore Federal team that are here. We were the main sponsor of this event. So seated at the First Shore Federal table are President and CEO Diane Turner. To her left, Rich Ashley, Brenda Ruark, and Sharon Morris. Also seated at the First Shore Federal table as our guest is the handsome husband of our superintendent, David Hanlon. And last but not least, my beautiful bride of almost 43 years, Donna Malone. Seated various places to the left are members of our Board of Education, my colleagues. First of all, our Vice Chairman, Mr. Michael Murray. Board member and past chairman, Mr. Don Fitzgerald. Board member Ann Sothowski. Board member John Palmer. And board member Tanya Laird-Lewis. In addition, Mr. Alan Brown is our board member and was unable to attend today. So First Shore Federal is proud to be the sponsor of the Superintendent's State of the Schools presentation for the third consecutive year. First Shore Federal is entering its 69th year as a local financial institution. Our association is one of the strongest financial institutions on the shore based upon its over 15% capital ratio. We also once again in 2021 earned a 5-star rating, the highest rating awarded for financial stability from Bauer Financial, a leading independent bank rating and research firm. Our association continues to be recognized as a leading community citizen. We use an ad theme of community-minded, just like you. Led by our president and CEO's example, Diane Turner, our colleagues are involved in countless community organizations as volunteers and in many cases in leadership roles. Today's sponsorship is an example of our support for education in this great community. Now to the state of the schools. So it's my privilege to introduce our fine superintendent, Dr. Donna Hanlon. She has served as Wicomico Superintendent of Schools since July 1, 2016. She is a Salisbury native, and we are proud that she is a graduate of the school system she now leads. Dr. Hanlon brings a broad and varied education background to her position as Superintendent of Wicomico Public Schools. After graduating from James M. Bennett High School and receiving her bachelor's degree from Purdue University, she began her career as a classroom teacher in Wicomico County Public Schools. Later, as a school counselor, she assisted in the design of the school system's elementary guidance program. She went on to serve students and families as assistant principal at Wicomico Middle, assistant principal and principal at James M. Bennett High School, and director of secondary education. Dr. Hanlon earned a master's degree in education from Salisbury University and a doctorate in education leadership policy studies from the University of Maryland, College Park. After 26 years in our schools in Wicomico County, Dr. Hanlon moved to Washington County, where she served the public school system as supervisor of special education, director of elementary education, and associate superintendent and chief academic officer. Since her appointment in 2016 as superintendent of schools, Dr. Hanlon has embraced staff as family and the community as partners in educating the students of Wicomico County Public Schools. She maintains a clear focus on early childhood education as a critical time in brain development and advocates strongly for innovative instructional classroom experiences linked to career pathways as a means to higher graduation rates and college and career success for graduates. Dr. Hanlon's leadership and vision have shaped a strategic plan for increased resources and progress toward achievement goals for Wicomico County Public Schools. As you know, Dr. Hanlon has announced her retirement as of June 30th. We are about to hear the many accomplishments of her leadership in the State of the Schools presentation. However, I want to say something about Dr. Hanlon, the person. I have had the distinct honor of serving with her since her appointment in July of 2016 as my board tenure began the exact same time. In my 43 years working in the private sector and serving on many boards in the community, I have worked with many dedicated individuals, and Donna Hanlon is one of those, in fact, one of the most dedicated. She works tirelessly to make our schools the best they can be. Her heart is in it every single day. She loves what she does, and you can tell that. It shows. Donna, we will all miss you, but Wicomico County Public Schools and all its moving parts, staff, students, faculty, are all better because of you. It is my distinct honor to welcome to the podium to give us the state of our schools, our great superintendent, Dr. Donna C. Hanlon.
Wow, I hope I can get through this. Whew. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I thank you so much for attending today and showing your ongoing support for our great school system. We were last together for this event January of 2020. So today we welcome the opportunity to be back together face to face to provide you with an update on state of the schools. First, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce under the leadership of Bill Chambers, wherever Bill disappeared back there in the back. Thank you, Bill, for your continuing support of our school system and for hosting this event, and to For Sure Federal for being a presenting sponsor for our State of the Schools Luncheon today. I also want to acknowledge the leadership of our Board of Education. Since the interview process during the search 6 years ago for the role that I now hold, I've maintained that the strength of the working relationship between the board and the superintendent is one of the most critical aspects of the school system's success. Board members' strengths as leaders, their understanding of the governance role, and most of all, their focus on a collaborative decision-making process based upon what's best for students makes for a strong board. The board makes critically important decisions on policies, budget, curriculum. They seek answers to formulate sound decisions based upon my recommendations and discussions, and trust me to run the day-to-day operation of the school system. So I'm happy to have this opportunity to thank them publicly for their true support of students and their tremendous support of me over the course of these last 6 years. Thank you. And of course, I want to acknowledge the leadership that supports our work every day. We also have assistant superintendents and directors and other staff here with us today. So would you please stand and be recognized, all staff who are here, for the valuable contributions that you make every day in our school system. And I also want to acknowledge this young lady right here to my right. She can't escape being front and center today. She's usually hidden in the back. Ms. Andrea Dooling, everybody knows who Andrea is. Thank you, Andrea, for your ongoing support and for your willingness to take on more and more responsibilities with each day. And to Tracy Saylor, is Tracy here? Tracy has been, when you see all the great pictures that we have today in the presentation, Tracy's responsible for those pictures and for helping me find them and for many, many, many more things. So thank you, Tracy. So today I'm going to follow a very similar agenda that I have in the past, beginning with the annual report on the previous year, last school year, including the context of our school system. As I've told you each time at State of the Schools, every school system is unique. The context provides a snapshot that it's important to consider in strategic planning. Next, I'm going to review the strategic priorities and share the progress that we've made over the years. And then we'll shift to the future. And rather than sharing the next iteration of Achieve, our assistant superintendents today will share important aspects of the blueprint for Maryland's future, as this landmark legislation will certainly shape Maryland's school systems planning, including Wicomico's, moving forward. And then finally, I'll recognize some very valued, wonderful friends of education for their ongoing support for Wicomico County Public Schools. I'm going to do my best to get you out of here by 1 o'clock, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think that's going to happen. Because I do have a lot to share with you, so let's get started with the annual report, beginning with the context. Our enrollment, just like all school systems in Maryland and probably across the country, dipped during the 2020-2021 school year. In our county specifically, by about 800 students. That dip was tied to COVID-19 and was primarily based upon two groups of students. Students that didn't enter pre-kindergarten in the fall of 2020, but instead stayed home or stayed in daycare settings, and students who transferred to home teaching. This year, as you can see, we are experiencing a nice bounce back, especially at the pre-kindergarten level, and we'll hopefully continue to see students return to our school system as normalcy returns in our communities. With almost 15,000 students, we are the second largest system on the Eastern Shore, just below Cecil County, and 15th largest in the state. Most importantly, Wicomico experienced the second highest rate of growth in the state since the decrease in 2020, with an increase of 2.2%. That's the bounce back I was talking about. Many school systems have not experienced that bounce back yet. Looking back at our overall growth, since 2010, we're among only 12 school systems that have experienced an overall increase, with the 6th highest percentage of growth since the 2010 school year. That's a 2% increase over the last 11 years. Looking at our enrollment, our population, as you can see, continues to be a majority-minority student body. Ensuring educational equity, meaning equal opportunities or equitable opportunities for success for all students, is a priority for the board and the school system. Therefore, it's critically important that we examine data of special student populations to determine all students' needs. The percentage of students who are economically disadvantaged, or referred to as FARMS, free and reduced meals students, has grown by over 2,000 students in the past 15 years, allowing our school system in the 2020-2021 school year to become a CEP county, that is, Community Eligibility Provision. This provision allows schools and school systems in high poverty areas to serve universal free breakfast and lunch, that is, to all students. CEP aims to increase meal participation rates by removing the stigma associated with farms and reduces the burden on schools by eliminating the need to collect and process those applications, and reduces stress on parents who no longer need to complete those applications and are often worried about finding the funding to pay for school meals. CEP has been especially helpful as our food service team was able to serve over 1.1 million curbside meals to students during the course of the pandemic. The ability to provide these meals was critically important to our vulnerable population, and we are truly thankful to the outstanding food service team led by Mr. Eric Gosley. Our special education population has remained constant at between 11 and 12%. During the pandemic, under the leadership of Mrs. Bonnie Walston, Director of Special Education, IEP teams held over 3,000 IEP meetings to ensure that our special education students' needs were being met to the best of their ability under these unique and difficult circumstances. Our English language learner population continues to grow with a 486% increase over the past 15 years. Wicomico has the 8th largest EL population in the state. That's not percentage of the population, that's actual numbers of students. Remember, we have the 15th largest system in the state, but we have the 8th largest English learner population. In Wicomico County Public Schools, our students speak 49 different languages. And a few other quick stats that are important to note. FIT. That stands for Families in Transition. It's a population of students whose families are homeless. Over the course of the 2020-2021 school year, we provided services to support 437 FIT students. That's a fact that I don't think many are aware of. And of course, students who are homeless require services to ensure equitable opportunities to succeed. Full-time staffing continues to grow based upon the needs of our system. We're at about 2,460 during the last school year. That's full and part-time employees and doesn't include the roughly 580 contractual employees. Transportation, another area that deserves recognition. We have 155 buses that transport our students, 78% of which are contractor-owned, and we have 11 vans that are used for supplemental transportation, often with those FIT students. That's actually a decreased number of buses because finding contractors and drivers has become more and more difficult, and it's not often a rare case that Mr. Hughes himself will drive a school bus. In a typical year, buses travel approximately 1.5 million miles. But last year, the miles traveled was reduced to 962,000. The 2020-2021 school year presented numerous challenges with the transportation of small groups of students and the transition back and forth. I know you all remember this, back and forth from virtual to in-person learning, often at some points adding a grade level at a time. But as always the case, Mr. Hughes was definitely up to the challenge. Thank you, Desmond. We now employ at least one full-time nurse in all of our schools, a group that we are truly indebted to for the work that they have done during the pandemic, and always, but especially during the pandemic, and especially during the return to our buildings. Even last year, with students remaining mostly virtual, they administered hundreds of COVID tests. And this year, I can't even begin to, I probably should have given you that stat because we hired part-time nurses just to help us with the testing for COVID and with the contact tracing and making contact with all parents for students who needed to be quarantined. It's been an overwhelming task, but especially this school year. Increasing career technology education opportunities continues to be a focus. During the 2020-2021 school year, CTE grew by 1,747 students, which represents a 21% increase over the previous 2 years. And within 2 quarters of graduating in 21, 81% of CTE students were enrolled in college, were employed, or had enlisted in the military. We're also proud of our advanced placement program, offering our students 22 different opportunities across all disciplines in college-level coursework. Last year, 871 students enrolled in AP courses, taking a total of 1,445 AP courses. Next year, we are adding an advanced placement seminar class for first-time AP students in the 9th grade to help introduce them to the higher expectations of advanced placement coursework. Average daily attendance is also a data point that we monitor and work to improve, and even through remote learning during last school year, our average daily attendance was still over 90%, thanks to our dedicated instructional staff and staff in technology. Leading to the last point, that thanks to the federal ESSER funding received and to the leadership of Bob Langen and his team, we are now able to be a one-to-one laptop program. We have a one-to-one laptop program in our school system. Thank you, Mr. Langen. So that's an overview of the context, reminding you of the complexity of the strengths and the challenges that we consider as we plan for improvement. So on to our 4 priorities and our progress towards goals. But before I do that, I hope that you'll indulge me for just a moment as I take a trip down memory lane, looking back at the evolution of Achieve, the strategic plan that has guided our work for the past 6 years. Most don't realize that Achieve was conceived in early 2016, probably late 2015, when I was sitting in my living room in Hagerstown, Maryland, preparing for round 2 of the interview process for Superintendent of Wicomico County Public Schools. And I presented this plan to the board in February of 16 as part of my candidacy to first share my core values that guide my daily work as an educator, and to also share a 3-phase plan that I would implement if I were to be appointed superintendent, with 3 phases: listening and learning, forming focus groups, analyzing data, presenting the board with a plan, and then phase 3 to implement that plan. And Achieve 1.0 was, I think I didn't give you, you can click. I missed a click for Andrea. Achieve 1.0 was produced in early 2017, and it really set the foundation for future iterations of Achieve. It also included the vision points that you'll see on the slide, and those vision points are found in all of our schools now, in our school lobbies, and they really are the foundation for our goals and strategies. They were formed by many, many conversations with internal and external candidates early on in my tenure as superintendent. So in January of 2018, that marked the beginning of State of the Schools, with Mr. Chambers coming to Wicomico County. And Achieve 2.0 identified the major priorities and goals and strategies aligned with the vision points. And each year thereafter, the next iteration of Achieve was produced, reporting annually on the progress towards goals and new strategies aligned and supported through the board's approved comprehensive budget for the following fiscal year. Now, last year we didn't hold State of the Schools, but Achieve 5.0 was still produced. And along with all Achieve reports, it's found on our website. As I indicated earlier, there's no Achieve 6.0, as it will be up to the next superintendent to create his or her pathway forward in the manner that aligns with his or her core values and the vision for the future. So thanks for allowing me to take you through the evolution of Achieve. It is a source of pride and accomplishment. And as you will hear in the segment on Maryland's Blueprint for the Future, I believe that our school system is well prepared for future expectations to ensure success for our students. I would, however, be remiss if I didn't admit to you a disappointment, one regret that I have felt in not accomplishing one of the biggest aspirations that I set in motion for the system. But the pandemic, unfortunately, required a major shift in priorities. But I'm hopeful that the next superintendent will have a passion for and recognize the power of the arts for students, as I do, and will even perhaps pick up where we left off in the planning for an art school in Wicomico County. So before we look to the future, let's have a look at the goals and the progress made in each area of Achieve. And we begin with kindergarten readiness. Kindergarten readiness, as I've shared with you on previous occasions, is measured by the KRA, the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment, and it's administered in Maryland classrooms in the fall of each year. In 2016, only 33% of our students entering kindergarten classrooms demonstrated the skills, the knowledge, and the behaviors needed to fully participate in kindergarten curriculum. And as you will note, we have surpassed our goal of a 5% increase, with 43% now of kindergartners showing full readiness. I shouldn't have said now. That was in the fall of 2019 because unfortunately the KRA was not administered in the fall of 2020. But I would imagine that with all the efforts of Dr. Briggs and his team and our early childhood team that we have put in place, that the percentage of kindergartners, had they been assessed last fall, would have again increased. But not only has the percentage of students who show full readiness for kindergarten increased to surpass our goal, just as importantly, this priority on early childhood education has resulted in an increase from 500 plus 3- and 4-year-olds enrolled in pre-kindergarten in 2016 to almost 800 3- and 4-year-olds today. Why is that so important? You've heard me say this before, but it bears repeating. There's no denying that the critical years are critical, that the early years are critical. That's when a child's brain is developing and nurturing. It's during those early years that more than 1 million new neural connections are formed every second in response to the stimulation that a child receives. It's quality interactions and stimulations early that greatly impact their developing brain and determine whether it's a sturdy foundation or a fragile foundation. It's during those critical years that if children don't receive the stimulation and care that they need, that many children never catch up. They enter kindergarten classrooms unprepared to learn, and public school systems employ expensive interventions to ensure that they're reading on grade level by grade 3, that important turning point. Because research tells us that children that are not proficient in reading by the end of 3rd grade are many times more likely to drop out of high school, and the consequences often stretch far into adulthood. And I remember telling the community every time I had the opportunity early in my tenure that the longer our community waits to intervene in young children's lives, the more costly and difficult it will be to make up for that fragile foundation, both for the struggling child and for the community as a whole. So we've invested in early childhood education, and it's paying off, and we will continue to do so. The quality of the program is just as important, and I'm pleased to share with you that all of our schools now have full-day pre-K programs and are all rated at level 5 through Maryland Excels, the highest level of quality rating and improvement in a system for childcare and early education programs. And I thank our staff for their laser-like focus on increasing opportunities for our youngest learners. Our next strategic priority is increasing graduation rate. And as you will recall, our baseline in 2016 was 81.5%, meaning that 81.5% of students who entered grade 9 in 2012 graduated 4 years later. As we now look at our progress over the years, we've seen some progress, but not enough. And I'm sure that this area will continue to be a high priority moving forward. Our 4-year cohort rate increased in 2019 to almost 84%. And last year, during the challenges of COVID, it did dip to just over 83%. It's important to note that the state also measures a 5-year cohort rate, which includes students who attend school during the summer and have a 5th year, their senior year. They return to complete requirements, and that 5-year cohort rate is approaching 85%. Why is this priority so important? We know that a diploma increases the likelihood of earning higher wages, moving up in the management chain, and contributing greater dollars in the economy. Not only are high school graduates less likely to use public programs, specifically related to health care, crime, welfare, and unemployment than non-graduates, but graduates have more buying power. And the high school diploma ultimately leads to increased success for those students in the future. We've continued to do a lot in this area, but as I said, we need to do more. We've continued to plan for and implement career-connected pathways and signature themes in our secondary schools to expand workforce development through apprenticeship programs, and as you heard earlier, to increase opportunities in career technology programs. With our increased English learner population, we've strengthened services in that area through our newcomers program, and we've focused on opportunities or expansion of non-traditional graduation pathways, including new virtual schooling options, summer programs, increased dual enrollment, expanded partnerships with Salisbury University and Warwick, and early college opportunities. We have one of the highest percentages in the state of students enrolled in dual enrollment while in high school. And I know, hearing from our Director of Curriculum, that that's a goal to increase it even more. So thank you, Dr. Rager. And finally, we've continued our focus on early interventions and supports for identified at-risk students, specifically targeting students not meeting expectations through such things as guided study halls, creative scheduling, attendance intervention plans, career technologies, and I could go on. Our third priority is recruiting and retaining a strong workforce. Specifically, we're looking at retention of beginning teachers. Our baseline in 2016 was a retention rate of 85%, and again, we're making progress towards our goal to retain 90% of first-year teachers. We've retained 88% of new teachers hired in 2020, and to date this year, I'm very proud to share with you that we're sitting on a 97% retention rate. This progress is especially noteworthy when you consider the extreme, challenging circumstances that our teachers have experienced over the course of the last few years. Many have heard about the teacher shortage crisis. Contrary to what hearing about a shortage may lead you to think, we are fortunate that teachers are not leaving Wicomico schools at any higher degree than they have before. We experience the same level, and in some cases to a lesser degree, retirements and transfers. But there is indeed a supply shortage, as fewer and fewer men and women are going into the profession. So we continue to work with our great partners in higher ed on strategizing for how to combat that important issue. Additionally, in 2018, seeing this shortage on the horizon, we began hosting our own recruitment fair, expanding our attendance at other fairs, now even virtually. We've continued to expand our Teacher Academy of Maryland program in our high schools in an effort to grow our own, and have supported our own classified employees, often instructional assistants, who are interested in earning teaching certificates. This year especially, we've intensified our supports for our employees through monthly half-days in the calendar and have continued to recognize Extra Mile Award winners at each board meeting. And the community has stepped up to help through the Kind SBY Adopt a School program. New teachers have an expanded mentoring and professional development program, and 3 new teachers are highlighted with Spotlight Awards each month. And last but not least, we are raising teacher salaries this year to an unprecedented level, as I will highlight shortly. Just before the pandemic, we added a 4th priority relative to school climate. But with the past 2 years of virtual learning, our data in that area for the annual report is inconclusive. But clearly, this is an area that needs to be a continued priority because safe schools and positive school climate are essential for student success. So to conclude our reflection on the 2020-2021 school year, we look at a few highlights from last year. And I know I'm going to be missing some, but just to note a few of the things that we're really proud of. Some of the accolades for our school system include being named to Forbes magazine 2021 list of top employers in Maryland, receiving the Best Budget Presentation and Accounting Practices Award from the Association of School Business Officials International for the 14th consecutive year. Thank you, Jesse, wherever Jesse is. Receiving the 2021 Healthiest Business Wellness Exemplar Award from the Maryland Department of Health, being ranked as one of the top 4 school systems by the Interagency Commission on School Construction on our maintenance effective assessments, thanks to Mr. Souza. And the National Association for Professional Development Schools recognized the Salisbury University PDS partnership with our school system as one of just 4 2021 exemplary PDS achievement awards in the country. Thank you for our partnership with SU. And once again this year, the National Association of Music Merchants Foundation named Wicomico County Public Schools as one of the best communities for music education, thanks to the opportunities that are provided in our schools every day. Finally, I had to include this one. It was no easy feat that our dedicated staff was able to continue with instruction throughout the 180 days of the 2021 school year, regardless of the challenges, whether it was virtual, in person, or a combination of the two. We are thankful to our dedicated staff. Shifting to just a few incredible student accomplishments, graduates of the class of 2021, with ceremonies taking place at the Arthur W. Purdue Stadium, earned more than $15.1 million in scholarship offers. Marvin Lee was named a 2021 U.S. Presidential Scholar and a top 40 finalist in the National Regeneron Science Talent Search. Hopefully I said that right. We will read about Marvin in the future. Sarah Sajati was a National Merit Scholarship finalist. Zoe DePasqua was pinned in April of 2021, I believe as a junior, as a Chief Petty Officer in the U.S. Naval Sea Cadets and has received a letter of assurance awarding her an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point. And 3 of last year's graduating seniors received full ride scholarships to college through the Quest Bridge National College Match Program. Jeff Pointejour, full ride to Emory University. Dong Lee, full ride to Colby College. And Abe Ahmed to Princeton University. Wicomico High School students. In one of our newest CTE programs, Interactive Media, Sarah Forrestal was one of just 100 students accepted into the animation program at Ontario's Sheridan University, the Harvard of Animation of Schools. And Casey Mull placed first in the Next Film Festival 2020 Stock Footage Challenge. And if that isn't enough, 4 Wicomico students received 2021 Maryland E-Gate Awards for Gifted and Talented. Glen Avenue students Adam and Aaron Shreves medaled in the Maryland Regional Braille Challenge. And the JROTC Academic Leadership Team qualified as one of the top 40 teams in the nation to compete in the 2021 JROTC Academic Bowl National Championships, that team's 3rd appearance. We are so proud of our educators who continue to focus on the power of the arts. A few highlights include Mardella Middle and High School's Principal Liza Hastings, who received the MMEA 2021 Outstanding School Administrator Award, and Wicomico High School's Jana Hobbs, who received an MMEA, Outstanding Career Music Teacher Award. Almost done. Mardella received a Special Olympics National Banner Unified Champion, or was recognized as being a, Special Olympics National Banner Unified Champion school, one of 5 in the country to receive this new award. Beaver Run Project continues on schedule. Had to get some school construction projects in there, thanks to Mrs. Ashby. Beaver Run Project has continued last year on schedule, and I'm really pleased to share with you that we'll open for students and staff in the fall. And we were really excited to get full planning approval for Mardella's renovation and addition, and that project is well underway starting this summer. And last but certainly not least, a highlight from last year, Himalatha Bhaskaran was named WCPS Teacher of the Year, and she was a Maryland Teacher of the Year finalist. So those are just a few of the many highlights and accomplishments from the 2020-2021 school year. We have experienced extreme challenges as a school system, but we have so much to be proud of. So to bring back words from previous State of the Schools for just a moment, remarks from Jim Collins' work, Good to Great, we have indeed relentlessly continued to push a very heavy flywheel, building momentum through focus and persistence as we were able to do so. I ask you to consider this. In light of the pandemic, does this analogy of the flywheel still hold true? Did our flywheel stop? When you think about it, our flywheel, with our priorities as its center, had been building momentum over the course of several years because we stayed the course. Did the flywheel stop? Was it damaged? No. Once a flywheel is created and effort goes into pushing, it requires continuous attention, but it takes a lot to stop a flywheel. And I believe that to be the case in Wicomico County Public Schools. While many of our students experienced gaps in learning and other traumas that have impacted mental health, I believe that our flywheel has withstood the test of time. Of course, the decisions about the future direction of this school system rest with our board and with the next superintendent. But I believe that through the cumulative effect of the flywheel and the momentum we have gained, that it's put our school system in a great place for the implementation of the requirements of Maryland's blueprint for the future. And I think you'll see that we don't need a new flywheel, but we must simply continue to work together and to push our flywheel to greater and greater speed, increasing momentum so that all of our students in Wicomico County can experience bright and successful futures. So as we look into the future, it's important to show the alignment between future plans and resource allocations. And although there isn't Achieve 6.0, we do know that the priorities of the blueprint are well aligned and will continue to be important. So allow me to show you how our budget was developed and aligns with our priorities for the future. Local funding is increased based upon maintenance of effort by 2.62%, or over $1.2 million increase. Revenue from the state for FY23 will increase by almost 9%, or over $14 million. These dramatic increases at the state level are tied to several things, but I'll note a few. The bounce back of our enrollment after the pandemic, the great increases that we have focused on in pre-kindergarten enrollment, for which we now receive per pupil funding, and our move to become a community eligibility provision county. So as we considered our priorities for the coming year, we again aligned them with our priorities, and my top priority to staff was on staff salaries, on recruiting and retaining a high-performing workforce. So in this slide, you'll see how we aligned our resources to keep that flywheel moving and to address that highest priority In the area of increasing kindergarten readiness, we've allocated almost $437,000, mostly moving staff from grants that were ending that needed to be moved to the general fund. In the area of increasing graduation rate, we've allocated just over $1.1 million, and those funds support additional teachers, especially to support our growing English learner population and support for growing technology needs. In the area of school climate, we've allocated roughly $547,000 to support our nursing staff, grounds crew, and maintenance staff. And finally, to recruit and retain a high-performing workforce, we have funded our negotiated agreements at almost $12 million. That translates to a step and a 7% cost of living adjustment for our classified and administrative staff, and a step and almost 7%, 6.8% cost of living adjustment for our teaching staff. Again, an unprecedented move to show our employees that they are valued and should be treated as professionals as a result of their dedication to this profession. And as a I will also mention that as a result of this action by the board, no classified employee will now earn less than $15 an hour. And our teaching staff is well on their way to the beginning salary of $60,000 a year by 2026, as required by blueprint legislation. These salary increases are the largest in the state, and I believe our staff are worth it. So what's on the horizon, not just for Wicomico schools, but all schools in Maryland? The Blueprint for Maryland's Future, also known as the work of the Kerwin Commission, will very much guide the work of our school system moving forward. The blueprint legislation can be categorized into 5 pillars or policy areas, as I've noted earlier, and I think that you'll agree that these areas of focus are perfectly aligned with Achieve. The priorities include early childhood education, college and career readiness, more resources for student success, high quality and diverse teachers and leaders, and governance and accountability. And at this time, I'm very pleased to introduce you to 3 members of my team without whom our school system could not succeed. They were instrumental in getting us through the toughest days of the pandemic and have together and individually continued to push the flywheel through their incredible leadership. Dr. Briggs, will you start us off with early childhood education?
Thank you, Dr. Hanlon, and thank everybody for coming this afternoon. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I wish there was even more people here. We hear a lot of noise in education. But some of the people that like to give the noise aren't here, and I just want to say I'm disappointed by that today. But thank you to Dr. Hanlon's leadership, vision, and focus on high-quality pre-K programming. We are in excellent shape regarding the early childhood component of the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. MSDE will be establishing a sliding scale to determine the share that a family at different income levels would have to pay for pre-K programs. Over its 10-year implementation, the Blueprint will deliver a significant expansion of full-day pre-kindergarten opportunities across the state. The program will be voluntary and free to all 3- and 4-year-olds from families with incomes up to 300% of the federal poverty level. It will also, poverty level, and 4-year-olds from families with incomes between 300 and 600% of the federal poverty level, using a sliding scale. Families would pay a portion of the cost for 4-year-olds up to 600% of the federal poverty level. If I can make some sense of that, for example, a family of 4 with a combined income verified by submission of adults' W-2s and/or current pay stubs would qualify for free pre-K3 or pre-K4 child to attend our school system if their household income is at or below $83,000 a year. As we already do, We will continue to work with private providers in the area to help ensure that all Wicomico 3- and 4-year-old children have access to high-quality early childhood experiences and enter kindergarten ready to learn. The results of an analysis of the long-term effects of Maryland's public pre-kindergarten programs indicate that enrollment in the program positively impact the participants' school performance through elementary and middle school. Dr. Hanlon highlighted some of that research earlier. The findings also suggest that participation in pre-kindergarten programs significantly reduce the number of children identified as having disabilities or placement in special education. The Kindergarten Readiness Assessment, or KRA, will be mandated across the state beginning next year, but this is something, as Dr. Hanlon alluded to, we've been doing for many years. Currently, we offer professional development for child care providers led by our early childhood supervisor and child development coaches on Saturdays. We focus on the skills, knowledge, and behaviors of children to prepare our future public school students. Currently attending child care programs throughout the county for kindergarten readiness. This is a strong partnership that we are very proud of in Wicomico County. During these trainings, we give the child care providers all the materials to implement the activities that are presented. Since 2001, Wicomico County has proudly offered comprehensive services through our 2 MSDE award-winning Judy Center programs for the children in the Pemberton and Beaver Run attendance areas. Through the Judy Center, we have established strong partnerships with 32 community agencies across Wicomico. 9 of these partners are privately owned and operated child care sites in addition to Head Start and the Warwick Community College Jordan Center. Our partners include the Wicomico County Health Department, Eastern Shore Child Care Resource Center, Wicomico County Public Library, and the Wicomico County Local Management Board, just to name a few. As Stephen Covey has coined, begin with the end in mind. Our end goal is graduation day for all students, starting with their early childhood educational experiences, whether they are in our schools or our partner programs. Speaking of graduation day, another policy area under the blueprint is College and Career Readiness, or CCR. It establishes a new Career and Technical Education Committee, which will be a unit within the Governor's Workforce Development Board under the AIB's oversight. This is a 6-member committee on which the state superintendent serves. It's charged with building a globally competitive CTE framework integrated into secondary and post-secondary institutions in the state, allocating roles and responsibilities to state agencies for credentialing students engaged in CTE programs, setting content qualifications and recruitment standards for CTE instructors, monitoring the overall progress of CTE in the state, and deploying CTE expert review teams to schools across Maryland. Like our early childhood program, I believe we are in outstanding shape regarding this initiative as we have an excellent CTE program that continues to grow and thrive. Here you can see the current standard being utilized to designate a student as CCR. Although the second C in CCR is for career readiness, the current requirements are essentially college readiness based upon an English and math assessment. I must point out that this standard is currently under review, and I know that I and many of my counterparts across the state have shared our concern with state officials regarding this. I'll give you an example that I shared with a group of individuals yesterday. A student who graduates from our CTE welding program at Parkside with a certificate in welding, ready to go and work at Chesapeake Shipbuilding, earning $65,000 a year, may be designated not CCR based upon this standard. I believe that's a problem. Most of my counterparts do as well, and we'll be working with and communicating that to the state. Here's the current timeline for CCR implementation. Although MSDE recommended that the potential new post-CCR pathways to begin in the 24-25 school year, the AIB has dictated that those still to be determined pathways start in 23-24. We will be paying close attention to the guidance coming from both MSDE and AIB over the coming months, and we will also be providing input to MSDE during our collaborative time with them. And to help our students get from pre-K to CCR, Mrs. Miles will be sharing some information with you regarding resources to ensure that all students are successful, which the Blueprint will be helping to provide. So, Ms. Miles.
Hello, everyone. Through this pillar, as you can see, more resources for student success, the Blueprint focuses on providing more support for students who need it the most. These are broad and sustained supports for the schools serving high concentrations of students living in poverty. I'm going to repeat something that you've heard throughout this presentation. Wicomico County Public Schools. We are in a great position because we have already started this work under Dr. Hanlon's leadership. You'll see that as I go through the next few points. There's the Maryland Consortium on Coordinated Community Supports. This state-level consortium serves three main purposes: supporting the development of coordinated community supports and partnerships to meet student behavioral health needs and other related challenges, and to do this in a coordinated manner. Number two, providing expertise for development of best practices in delivering student behavioral health services, supports, and wraparound services. And number three, providing technical assistance to local school systems, that would be us, to support positive classroom environments to close achievement gaps so that all students can succeed. In summary, they're going to provide direction, they're going to provide support, and we're going to partner to ensure that these resources are available for all of our students. There's also a revision in the funding formula that includes a revised formula weight for special education, for English learners, and for farms or free and reduced meals. Addition of the concentrated poverty weight in the formula, an addition of funding amounts for each school identified as a community school, hear more about that in a moment, used to establish or enhance community schools and to establish or enhance the school health and behavioral services. Dr. Hanlon referenced earlier, all of our schools have a full-time nurse, an RN, additionally supported by LPN or CNA in many cases. All of our schools are served by social workers. We are going the right direction and have been. The focus is on providing the supports to the students and families most in need of these areas for student success. The supports and wraparound services in the identified community schools, you'll see a summary here. As mentioned previously, they focus on, again, meeting the needs of those students and the families who need this most to secure a foundation for student success. There's a very strong focus on the increased engagement of community partners and community resources. Very important that we are working collaboratively for the success of students. This is critical to the full and successful implementation of the plans in our community schools and will benefit all of our schools in the long run. Additionally, there's something called Transitional Supplemental Instruction for Struggling Learners. Dr. Briggs referenced this. Includes before and after and summer academic enrichment programs, increased support for English learner students and special education students, and we will continue to grow and further develop those programs. There are specific statewide work groups focusing on these areas. You'll see several listed here. Their reports are available on marylandpublicschools.org. I would encourage you to take a look and to keep updated to see how this progresses. Now that term I keep referencing, community schools. We currently in Wicomico County Public Schools, our system, we have 9 community schools identified. Our first 5 community schools were identified in 2020. You'll see those on the list. And additional schools have been identified each of the subsequent years. This is based on the free and reduced meals percentage and started with an 80% identification with a decrease by 5% annually until the platform of 55% is reached and maintained. Needed supports and wraparound services have been identified in these schools through comprehensive needs assessment processes, and we continue to provide these to students and families through the collaboration with our valuable community partners, the ongoing identification of the community resources, and the addition of staff focused on these services. Take a moment just to share with you some of the staff who have been added in these community schools. We have community school coordinators. Their role is to literally, as the title suggests, coordinate all that our community can offer with our school in partnership. We have a mental health coordinator, social workers, pupil personnel workers, homeschool liaisons. We have added nurses at the RN level of certification and licensure, and we've also added CNAs to expand the health services in our schools as additional support in our health rooms. We have teachers of English learners and we have assistants of English learners, all increasing upon the strong foundation in our schools. We continue to focus on creating and expanding and strengthening the network of partnerships to support and provide services to students and families, always focusing on that foundation of student success. At this point, Dr. Stauffer will now be sharing more information about additional pillars in the blueprint.
Thank you, Mrs. Miles. Good afternoon, everyone. I told Dr. Whitehead I would do my part to get us out of here as close to 1 o'clock as possible. That's just not going to happen, but I'll still do my best. The next blueprint pillar or policy area centers around elevating teachers and school leaders professionally. Specifically, this deals with implementing a performance-based career ladder and raising the salaries of teachers to a level that is comparable to other fields with similar education requirements. The system of a career ladder and a corresponding salary increase is also designed to incentivize teachers to stay in the classroom. A teacher will be able to continue moving up the career ladder, earning higher pay without having to leave the classroom to go into administration or some other area where they can earn that pay. And that's just exactly what we need, our best teachers in those classrooms. The first area, raising teacher compensation, may be the best and well-defined area of the career ladder at this point in time. The other areas below are still being defined more thoroughly and are being worked through. However, you can see the requirements under the first area. Between July 1st, 2019 and June 30th, 2024, teachers are to receive at least a 10% salary increase. And I'm excited to be able to say that after our last round of negotiations, starting this July 1st, 2022, we'll have already exceeded those requirements. So congratulations on that. And as of July, our starting salaries for new teachers will be just shy of $52,000, which we believe is near the very top of starting salaries for the Eastern Shore. But you can see from that slide with that requirement, we still have some work to do in that area. Moving down, you're able to see that teachers can move up on the career ladder by obtaining their National Board Certification, or NBC, or if the content area they teach does not correspond with an NBC eligible area, they can continue moving up the career ladder if they earn a master's degree in that specific content area. The other areas listed have not been completely defined as of yet, but more guidance is coming from the state all the time, and we're expecting to receive quite a bit of that direction this summer from MSDE. Blueprint also requires university teacher prep programs to be more rigorous, and it elevates licensing standards for the prospective teacher, as well as lengthens the time that students in a college teacher prep program must be in an internship. It's recognized that great teachers need time to also collaborate with colleagues regarding instruction and in participating in professional development. A priority for the blueprint is to allow for teachers to have that time to work in small groups with each other on professional development and also in small groups with struggling learners of students. This too is an area that's being defined at the time. We're continuing to get direction and continuing to go forward as we get that direction. And lastly, for this pillar, Blueprint encourages the establishment of a more diverse teacher workforce and plans for additional funding to be provided to college teacher prep programs to serve our underrepresented populations in the teaching workforce. as well as establishes the evaluation of and the reporting out of our hiring practices completed by local school systems. Next slide, you can see under governance and accountability. This is the last pillar to bring in the accountability piece to all of this that's been discussed so far today. Blueprint has established a new Maryland department government called the Blueprint Accountability and Implementation Board, or the AIB. The role of the AIB is to implement the details of the Blueprint legislation and to monitor how those details are being implemented at both a state and local level. The AIB is the final authority over everything Blueprint in Maryland. They have authority over all of other departments within Maryland, including the Maryland State Department of Education, when it comes to this legislation. The reach of the AIB will occur through local school system reporting that must be done to the state and through the implementation of expert review teams. These expert review teams will make school visits, inspect the implementation of Blueprint at the local level, and share best practices across the state so that there's consistency in how this legislation is implemented. Within the next 7 months or so, the AIB will publish a statewide Blueprint implementation plan. That's later this coming fall. This plan, along with some Blueprint criteria provided by MSDE, will serve as the guidance for each local school system to then draft their own local Blueprint implementation plan, which must be submitted to the AIB for final approval. And in order to accomplish all of this work, Wicomico will be developing specific work groups around each of the 5 pillars that are discussed today. These work groups will provide us with the opportunity to involve our stakeholders, both within the school system and also outside of the school system in our community. So stay tuned. You'll be hearing much more about this in the months to come. As with many things, the true accountability will come from the funding that follows the Blueprint requirements. Each of these requirements discussed start with our local Blueprint implementation plan, and they will come with deadlines that must be met in order for our school system to receive the full amount of funding that Blueprint can provide. Rest assured, Wicomico will meet these deadlines as we'll begin our work groups starting this summer, and we'll be working on our plan to be submitted to the AIB and MSDE later next spring. As stated before, much of this work is still being defined, but with the vision, as others have already said, of Dr. Hanlon and how we have jump-started our school system on many of these initiatives over the last 6 years, please know that Wicomico is in a very good place as we have already started this work. And that truly is the case as all of us participate in our state meetings. That's exactly what we're seeing, and that's what we're hearing. The full implementation of Blueprint is a 10-year process, so we need to keep that in mind. The AIB has now been formed and has been meeting regularly since November, not really that long ago. And while the 7-member board has been meeting, the department itself still won't be fully staffed until later this summer. Locally, as I said, we'll be beginning the work groups this summer, and we've already started the work of informing our leadership within Wicomico County Public Schools, our board members, and our local government about the Blueprint requirements. As we begin this next school year, we'll begin the process of expanding this foundation of knowledge outward to all of our staff in our schools as well. In the 2022-2023 school year, we will be very involved with developing our own local Blueprint implementation plan, and those plans are due to the state in March of 2023. And then the process, that 10-year process of implementation will truly begin. So thank you. Turn it back over to Dr. Hanlon.
So I told you we had a lot to say. So we're almost done. We're getting ready for the fun part. But before we do that, I just want to thank Kim and Micah and Rick again for your strong leadership and for working collaboratively with me and with all of our staff to make a difference for our students every day. Thank you. So each spring, our school system proudly recognizes a standout organization, an individual or a company as a friend of education. Sometimes we even recognize two friends. But today, since the last 2 years have been so extremely challenging, and because this is my last time to see this award presented, on behalf of Wicomico County Public Schools and our Board of Education, we will be recognizing 4 organizations as Friends of Education for their outstanding support for our students, teachers, staff, and parents and families. Sorry. Mr. Malone, would you join me, please, in these presentations? And as each organization is announced, I will ask that a representative from the organization or representatives in attendance come forward while I read some things about that organization. So first, we have the United Way of the Lower Eastern Shore, led by Pam Gregory, CEO. The United Way has been serving Wicomico and 3 neighboring counties for more than 75 years with a focus on education along with health and financial stability. They provide direct programming to support students' learning and health, including Addiction Awareness Coalition and Student Art Competition for local middle and high schools, Women United Youth Program initiatives such as Read to Succeed, which matches women mentors with second grade students to support students in becoming strong readers by grade 3. Girls on the Run, fitness and team building program at Pittsville Elementary and Middle. And last but not least, I know Pam, one of my favorites, and Pam's too, is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, with the United Way providing funding so that every local child who signs up can receive a new book in the mail every month until their 5th birthday. The local Imagination Library has had more than 5,000 students complete this program, giving them an excellent start to literacy. So thank you so much, Pam. Yes, okay. And next we want to recognize Salisbury's Promise, an alliance for youth. Dr. George Whitehead, director of Salisbury's Promise, and many know that Dr. Whitehead was on our Board of Education for many years and chaired the board for a number of years as well. After attending the President's Summit for America's Future in 1997, a delegation from Salisbury and Wicomico County started a local version of America's Promise Alliance called Salisbury's Promise, geared to carrying out the 5 promises to children, caring adults, safe places, a healthy start, effective education, and opportunities to help others. America's Promise picked Wicomico County as a demonstration site with an outreach blitz geared towards connecting community partners, including faith-based organizations, with carrying out those 5 promises. Starting in the 2001-2002 school year, Salisbury's Promise provided a framework and encouragement for expanded faith-based support of schools, or a faith-based partner for each school. Schools will tell you how much they value and appreciate their faith-based partners, some of whom continue partnering with a school year after year. This broad faith-based effort that Salisbury's Promise began 2 decades ago is flourishing in every school today. In March 2020, just days before the pandemic shut down, the Board of Education recognized faith-based partners at their Board of Education meeting for what they have done to support students, teachers, staff, and schools. Most continued serving however they could through the pandemic months and years. Wicomico Schools and the Board of Education are proud to recognize Dr. Whitehead and Salisbury's Promise for their guiding role in our faith-based partnerships. Thank you. Next, Wicomico County Education Foundation. And we ask that Susan Purnell, the president of the Board of Directors, Mike Dunn, the Treasurer, and the CEO of the Greater Salisbury Committee come forward, and Bill Chambers from the Chamber of Commerce. And I'm not only recognizing Susan today, the President of the Board, but Mike and Bill because of the integral role that I think Bill already mentioned in getting our education foundation started, and their continued support and encouragement of the business community to support our schools. So the business community did come together 6 years ago in an effort to better support public education with the Greater Salisbury Committee and the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce forming Wicomico County's first education foundation for its schools. Through special events held to raise both funds and awareness, the Education Foundation showcased outstanding teachers and students and raised money to fund increased instructional technology in every pre-kindergarten classroom. For the start of the 2019-2020 school year, the Education Foundation made it possible for Wicomico County Public Schools to get motivation and inspiration from renowned educator and innovator Ron Clark. The positive effects from Mr. Clark's presentation at the staff kickoff rally that year were still growing when the pandemic shutdown occurred, but they continue to ripple today. The Wicomico County Education Foundation has stepped up to support teacher recognition, serving as a presenting sponsor of the Wicomico Teacher of the Year banquet. The foundation's support makes it possible for our teachers to feel the warm appreciation of the school system and the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Kind SBY. We have Grace Murdoch, Kindness Secretary for Salisbury, and others who are going to join her, other Kindness Commissioners are welcome to join. We are delighted to recognize Kind SBY for all its wonderful work in the community and in our schools. Kind SBY, formerly known as Wicomico Grows Kindness, brought the global Dance for Kindness to Salisbury. The dance engaged many students and staff members, whether through actual dancing, providing entertainment, or creating artwork on the theme of kindness. And we thank them for sponsoring kindness events and guest speakers in our schools, as well as providing support and encouragement for student-led kindness clubs in our schools. Recognizing the tremendous stress that teachers are under, for this school year, Kind SBY created the Adopt a School program and encouraged businesses, individuals, and organizations to sign up to adopt a school. By selecting a few creative activities from a diverse menu of choices and carrying out the activities for school staff, Adopt a School partners have built morale and generated lots of smiles. Encouraging top teachers through the Teacher of the Year recognition program has also been a strategy, or what this group has done. In May 2021, Kind SBY provided gift bags, big gift bags, to the 4 finalists, not only for 2021, but for 2020 also, since they had missed out on that celebration. Earlier this month, the 2022 Teacher of the Year finalists receive a stack of books from Kind SBY, along with a gift card to a local merchant. What a kind friend to education. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're still bringing
So thank you to these organizations, and really, as I look around the room, there are so many other organizations I could have recognized. Really, I want to thank everyone. It's been through your affirmations, your positive notes, I don't know if I can get through this, your smiles, and much more, that I have been able to push through these last few years during challenge. Stop looking at me, my husband. During these challenging times. Your support during these last few years has been invaluable. Yes, the pandemic created extremely challenging circumstances, and decisions had to be made that would not make everyone happy. But I look back at those decisions, and I wouldn't change a thing. Because true to my values, I made decisions with students' and staff best interests in mind. And while challenging, I had faith in my core value that fairness and consistency and compassion, along with open and honest communication, breed loyalty, trust, and motivation. It was incredibly important to me that during these times, when we didn't know what to expect, that at least our community would know that I consistently followed the science and not only communicated what we were doing, but why. I hope, as we all do, that the worst of the pandemic is behind us. But I will be honest in telling you that as I wind down my 44-year career, I've never been so worried about the future of public education. I have great confidence in our teachers and our administrators and our staff who come to work every day to make a positive difference in the lives of our students. But decisions made across the country during the pandemic, whether those decisions had to do with remote learning, mask wearing, vaccines, or for some, whether the pandemic was even real or not, these decisions have created culture wars in boardrooms across the country. I worry about the future because boards of education and the work of school systems has always been meant to be nonpartisan. But now, instead, leaders in education have unfortunately become the targets of groups who are angry and need a political platform. Wicomico County is not alone in experiencing this phenomenon in our board meetings. I don't have the solution except to say that you can make a difference. You can make a difference by paying attention at this critical crossroads. Please vet board candidates carefully. Do your homework. Attend candidate forums and vote for those who present solutions and want to work together in making decisions in the best interest of our students. Vote for those who are willing to find the middle ground during these culture wars, not for those who have moved to the far corners of the fighting ring and refuse to budge and only want to create drama and fear and spread misinformation. Honestly, what has kept me awake at night has not been whether or not to wear a mask. We have consistently followed the science, and our students and staff, I believe, are safer because of that. What has kept me awake is the lack of civility that we have experienced, the poor role models that some adults have been for our students, and the fact that precious time has been consumed responding to the lack of civility and misinformation, rather than spending every precious second supporting our staff in their efforts to address learning gaps and the mental health needs of our students. So as I get ready to turn over the reins of this wonderful school system in just 45 days, but who's counting? My plea to the community is to pay attention and support a board that wants to govern the school system for the right reasons and trusts the superintendent to run the day-to-day operations. And last but certainly not least, I implore you to extend your support and trust in the next superintendent, just as you have done for me. I thank you for the ways that you have embraced my return to our community and supported my vision for our great school system. It's been an honor and a privilege to have been your superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. To echo what Donna said, I don't care what your plans are, you need to go to the polls on July 19th. Yeah, it's a rotten month to vote. You'd all rather be at the beach. But I can't underscore what the superintendent said about the primaries, because we need to weed out those who want to destroy public education. Weed them out. I've said this from the day I got over here, and it was what I said when I was in Calvert County. A high-achieving, successful public education system is the #1 driver of economic development in any jurisdiction. The business community sees that, and we have to make sure that we see that when we do our due diligence on July 19th and again in November. But I think if we can get the job done mostly July 19th. You're all invited as participants in a celebration for Donna, which is being put on by the Wicomico Education Foundation, June 25th at the Wicomico Yacht Club. So I hope you all will come down that evening and share your memories and best wishes to Donna and to Dave as they move on to their next chapter. Thank you, Donna. Thank you for your team. Thanks for being here, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.